What did they tell the truth about? What did they they said, you know what? I know we're liars and we get people killed and we're, funneling money here and there, but we can't lie about the moon landing, guys. And everybody agreed. This one we're going to be, this is just what it is what it is. And we're going to give the scientific community access to all the data so everybody knows it's verified. We're going to have third-party people test everything to make sure it's verified.
Well, you brought up a bunch of good points. My opinion is really the opinion of the experts. For example, Robert Kennedy Jr. is 100% certain. He has more access to the JFK files than Oliver Stone does. He's 100% certain that his uncle, President Kennedy, was killed by the CIA. Then, as you mentioned, the Gulf of Tonkin. Robert McNamara, before he died, got it off his chest, said that the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the Pearl Harbor incident that got America behind the Vietnam War, never happened. He and the CIA completely fabricated it. Congress passed a law, the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, that led to the death of 3 million people and 58,220 American soldiers without cause. So, if the corrupt federal government is willing to kill their own duly elected president, if they're willing to needlessly kill 58,220 of their own soldiers, I don't think they have a problem faking an image of the moon on television. The problem is it's a positive lie. You see, whoever killed JFK, you're just changing who did it and why. He's still dead. It's still a tragedy. Or 9/11. You can change who did it and why, but all those people are still dead. This is a positive lie. And people don't want to give up that candy, and I come along and say, wake up and smell the manure. Some people are like, well, I know America has gotten bad, but at least we went to the moon. And people need to realize the sheer arrogance of the federal government to pull off the moon landing fraud when there's virtually no eyewitnesses except 3 government employees and a picture we have to trust is on the moon from the federal government.
Yeah.
So it was actually very easy to fake. And in answer to your first question, I was more than a supporter. I was gaga idolizing the moon landings with my father in the Air Force and giving me a packet of pictures of Apollo 11. And as I moved every 2 years from house to house, they were a prominent place of glory on every bedroom wall from city to city.
What changed?
Well, what changed is having an open mind.
And but was there a moment?
Yeah. The first moment was so from the age of, I was asleep in bed when it happened. But at age 4, I got those pictures, saw them. I mean, even if I saw them once a day, that's 3,650 times over the next 10 years. Probably saw them 3 times a day. So I see these pictures over 10,000 times, believing they're on the moon and thinking it's the greatest thing. And then I'm 14 years old, and I see Bill Casey, a former Rocketdyne employee who worked for NASA for 6 years on the Apollo program with high security clearance, only second to von Braun, who says, look, I edited a memo from von Braun to the Pentagon warning them they are not going to make the goal. There's only a 1 in 10,000 chance they can go to the moon on the first attempt.
And what year was this?
That was back in 1966, I think.
And so 3 years later, they went to the moon. Is it possible that they were able to overcome whatever challenges that got him to 10,000 to 1?
Well, no, because I mean, so we're going to go over many proofs.
Yeah, this is important, but I need to every step of the way.
Well, here's how you can prove that's not the case.
Okay.
So the number one proof that we have is simply deductive reasoning, because today, with 54-year better rocket designs and computer designs, the farthest that NASA can send a rocket with an astronaut into space is 1,000th the distance to the moon. That's why they're sending mannequins to orbit the moon that can't even land because they would die from the radiation. So what they're really claiming is, back in 1969, ahead of schedule on the first attempt, when all of NASA's computers had 1/1,000,000th the computing power of a cell phone, they sent astronauts 1,000 times farther into space than they can send today with 54-year better technology. So what they're really claiming is they had 1,000 times better technology in 1969 than they do today.
Not necessarily.
Well, but that is because you can't have better technology in the past and in the future.
Right,
That's impossible.
But they haven't done a moon landing program today. So if they started a moon landing program today, the technology is vastly superior, right?
So it would take
your
less
phone.
time. It would take less time to return to the moon.
If they
but
did.
it's taking more
But
time
they're
instead
not
of less
doing,
time.
right? But they're not doing it, right? Like during the
Because
Apollo.
they can't do it.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. But the Apollo program doesn't exist today. The Apollo program was a massive program to try to beat Russia to get the first person on the moon. And it was a concerted effort by how many scientists? How many people were involved? How many employees? How many, overall? I mean, very compartmentalized, right? But how many people overall were involved in the Apollo moon landing?
Well, a couple 100,000.
Okay. That's a lot of people to organize and to focus on one very specific goal. That's not happening today. So to say that we can't do it today, it's like people would say, if I was steel manning their position, I would say, no, we're not trying to do it today. If we wanted to do it today, we could do it today.
Well, actually, they are
400,000, it says. At the peak, Apollo program employed 400,000 people and required the support of over 20,000 industrial firms and universities. So here's the argument against that it would be fake. Everyone would know, and everyone would tell, and it would get out.
Well, let me show you how that's not true. First of all, Eugene Krantz, flight director, he said, out of his own mouth, that a person in the command center in Houston during a launch to the moon can tell no difference whatsoever between a computer simulated flight and a real flight. They can't tell the difference. It's just a bunch of numbers going by on a screen. So if a person in the command center cannot tell a difference, then how could we as a 10-year-old watching it on our living room at home? And then, do you really think the CIA is so stupid to tell the person making the glove or the boot or the door handle, hey, we're really not going to the moon, be sure not to tell anybody? And then
that wouldn't be the question. The question would be that too many people would have to know, and it would get out.
No, it wouldn't. If someone in the command center doesn't know, then the command center people can be fooled. Mm-hmm. Once the rocket is up, there's only 3 eyewitnesses to it. It's actually much easier to fake than we realize. A bank teller, and how many bank tellers are at Wells Fargo? Hundreds of thousands, 400,000 bank tellers probably. But do they know what the CEO knows about corruption in the bank? I don't think so. You see, there's a big difference. And then we have no independent press coverage. World War II had 1 billion or more eyewitnesses in Europe, but there's no independent press coverage. Only 3 people.